When I was 13, a new neighbor moved into the house next door to mine, which we share a driveway with. Our neighborhood is really close and like to have get-togethers and block parties. So we all got together and had a little celebration to welcome her. Immediately it became clear that she did not like my dad. A while later, we find out that she's been telling our neighbors that my dad was inappropriate to her at the party. I know a dad would never act like that, but he isn't a native English speaker. He's Middle Eastern, which is relevant, and he maybe some sort of wire got crossed, and there was some kind of misunderstanding. So, my dad goes to try and apologize to her. It does not go well, and she tells my dad to leave, which he promptly did. Then, she put up the security cameras. They absolutely covered her house, getting views of pretty much every angle, including lots of shots of our shared drive. Whatever we thought, a lady has a right to put cameras on her house. Then, the cops started showing up. She called them, claiming we had messed with her cameras, or that me and my friends were shining laser pointers into them. The cops would leave pretty quickly because the supposed crime involved a camera, which somehow hadn't captured any evidence of the supposed crime. Then she started claiming that we were poisoning her yard. She spent a lot of time in her lawn gardening and growing plants, but for some reason, every 6 months or so, she'd cut everything down and start over. Anyways, the cops started coming asking about our supposed poisoning of her lawn, but they couldn't find any evidence. We didn't have any poison. Her cameras hadn't picked anything up, and we had no fucking motive to poison her lawn. So, she started an inquest with the Department of Agriculture. A pesticide use investigator showed and interrogated us, then took samples from her yard. While that was going on, we had a few fun encounters with her. Once she bought a giant floodlight and pointed it into our windows in the middle of the night. The fire department had to come and unplug it. Another time, our dinner was interrupted when a massive hazmat truck came blaring down our street. Men in heavy gear poured out and charged into her house, and then, minutes later, disappointedly filed out. One guy came and told us that she had bought a Geiger counter and used it wrong and had thought that we had irradiated her house. Finally, things came to a head when she sued us to get an order of protection. She claimed that my dad was a member of an Al-Qaeda sleeper cell intent on destroying her. She also claimed that he had used his skills as an engineer to develop a device that she referred to as a white ion laser, which would allow him to turn invisible and sneak into her house. She submitted 1 terabyte of film from her cameras, all of which was annotated with such incriminating evidence as Squamish leaves the house. Squamish enters the house. Squamish enters the house. There were also tons of photos and notes. It was here that we discovered that her cameras were pointed into my bedroom and had been filming me for years. I was a young lad by this point, so there's probably video evidence of some pretty embarrassing teenage behavior. We later legally forced her to move the cameras, but she kept moving them back. So I just kept my blinds closed for the better part of a decade. During the trial, the Department of Agriculture report came back. It was determined that crazy neighbor has poisoned her own lawn by over-fertilizing it. She received a fine for contaminating the groundwater. We obviously won the lawsuit and countersued her to get our own order of protection. We also had to legally get the files on us at the FBI, and CI closed since she had reported us to both agencies. Despite losing the suite, she continued to live next to us, occasionally calling the police on us or suing us again. All things accounted for. The cops were called on us 37 times. We were sued 5 times. And of course, there were the investigations with various federal agencies. It's now been 10 years, and she's finally moving out. Why, you might ask? Does she feel guilty for accusing us of crimes with no evidence for a decade? Had her paranoia finally driven her to move? No. She didn't pay her property taxes for 6 years, and her house got taken from her. She tried to sue the city on a bunch of occasions as well, and failed. This is only a summary of the situation. There's tons more. I haven't even gotten into her kids, her husband's scam, the video she posted to YouTube of her dog dying, her faking a disability, and so much more. I am pretty sure my neighbor brutally murdered his wife and got away with it. This was years ago. I was in college, living off campus. Guy moves into the apartment across the street. He's a lawyer or something like that, in town, and recently separated from his wife. Not long after moving in, his wife is found stabbed to death at their house a few miles away. He is immediately the prime suspect and has cuts all over his hands. The police came and questioned my boyfriend and I if we'd seen him around that time. We said, yeah, he was moving an ack into the house earlier in the day. But that's it. The guy told the police the cuts on his hands were from moving the ack, so we pretty much corroborated his story. He was let go. No one was ever charged. It remains an unsolved murder. The wife's name was Candace Scola. You can Google it.